I almost lost £30,000 as an immigrant in the UK. I made a massive mistake. I signed a 3-year lease just months after moving to the United Kingdom. But when my landlord wanted me out, I didn't just walk away. I negotiated an almost £9,000 payout. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you how I did that, the power of having a BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, and how your niceness, frankly speaking, might be costing you thousands of pounds. I hope you watch till the end. Welcome. So when I moved to the United Kingdom, this was just about when the pandemic was starting to ease up. I really wanted stability. As a person, I hated moving. And so I just wanted to settle down quickly, find a place that I would believe in. At this time, I think I had about 2 months of temporary accommodation. And so against the advice of everyone, I signed a 3-year lease. You heard me. A 3-year lease, 36 months. And I thought I was building a quiet life. I was locking in my financial commitment. I knew what my bills was going to be for the next 36 months. And honestly, at that time, it was a good idea. But you see why, as an immigrant, that is an almost terrible thing to do. Because to break that lease, I would have had to pay £30,000. But 10 months in, I think 10 to 11 months in, the tables changed. My landlord reached out. They wanted to sell the apartment and they wanted me out. This period as well, the rental market was at a high. Like the same apartment that I was renting at that time would cost me an extra £500 if I were to rent it about a year later. She offered me 1,500 to leave. I mean, the situation was an emotional one. At the time, my emotions were like, be nice and take it and go. But logic was like, girl, are you stupid now? And my very smart friend told me to stay and fight. And thanks to them, I actually fought. These are the strategies I used in negotiating. Number one is the power of BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And this is what it was for me. I wasn't ready to move because at this time it paid me to not move. I mean, paid an extra £500 for the same apartment that I was in when I already had it locked down. That was a lot of financial commitment and a lot of financial burden. So it just didn't make sense for me to move. Second, the apartment I was at the time, I started to feel like, oh, for the next 3 years, this might feel a little too small. I could get something nicer. I really wanted it. So it was a thing of, I wanted it, but if it doesn't come, I'm okay as well. Like, I already manage my finances. That is good. If it comes, I go to a better apartment and use that money to pay for it. Her situation was that she was out of the country, desperate to sell, and needed me out to close that deal. I had the legal rights for the next 2 years. Like, that agreement was solid as a rock. And it wasn't in my favor. In a negotiation, the person who is willing to walk away or who is willing to stay put wins. In this situation, it was me. The second piece to this negotiation was removing emotions from it. Emotions could get the better of you. At that point, I was concerned for her and I wasn't thinking about the financial implication that this had for me. The landlord, of course, tried to appeal to my empathy. She was prioritizing her situation as she should, but who's thinking about me? This is where my very smart friend gave me a reality check. It was as simple as this. If I were the one breaking the lease, the agency would not be nice to me. I would literally have to pay up that money. Or maybe I would have come to a negotiated agreement with the landlord, but it definitely would not be in my favor. So I really needed to put emotions aside and think about this logically. Why should I do this? And so the first rule of business, do not bring emotions into a math problem. And frankly, this was a math situation. You can use empathy to understand their needs, like what they want, and really just, empathize with them. But do not, I repeat, do not let your niceness become your financial ruin, because this is what would have been the situation for me. The third point is the power of itemized anchoring. Yep. So when she offered £1,500, I didn't just shout a random number and say, hey, take this. I asked for £11,000 with the logic to follow for it. So when I sent my counter offer, I didn't just give a random number. I put in a table that looked like this. I showed her that by asking me to leave, she was essentially costing me £13,000 in financial loss for the next 2 years. And I even went on to give her a £2,000 discount, so making it £11,000. The tip here, when you frame your request as mitigating a loss rather than making a gain, a lot of people are most likely to agree with you. After this, her offer jumped from £1,500 to £6,000. What does this tell you? A closed mouth is a closed destiny. Or closed mouths don't get fed. So, in other words, you could have offered me £6,000 initially, but you offered me £1,500. The other lesson here is to use non-whole numbers. After she offered me £6,000, we went back and forth, and when we got to a final stage, I didn't just ask for 9,000. I asked for a non-whole number. It was about 9,240, something in that manner. Why? Specific numbers shows that you've done precise calculation. It makes the other party feel like there is no wiggle room for them to negotiate, because how are you going to negotiate 9,240? Take out the 40 or the 200. So when you give a number like that, it signals that you have calculated every penny to this. If I ask for 9K, it might look like I'm guessing, but now that I've asked for, like, I don't know, 9,240, it's like for every pound, there is a work to it. So there's really no wiggle room for my landlord to haggle me. So at the end of the day, we settled for a total package of almost £11,000, including my deposit. I got a full refund on my deposit, but the actual amount was about 8,600, and I think the actual amount was about 8,800 and something pounds. I'll probably put the correct one on the screen. And this covered my move to a much bigger and better apartment, and a newer one too. But here is the crazy part. Shortly after, I had to take up another assignment in the United States, in New York, which meant that if I hadn't negotiated, if my landlord did not require me to move out at the time that she did, I would have had to pay the clause, the break clause, or the amount associated with the break clause, which would have been devastating for me. So my advice to immigrants: never sign a long-term lease if you're not certain of how long you would be in the country. Even when you are certain, be mindful, ensure that your break clause is something that you can easily get out of. Surround yourself too with objective voices, with smart people. Culturally, it made sense for me to understand my landlord situation and just move on. But for my Dutch friend, that felt like a no. My Dutch friend helped me see past my own cultural bias and more towards fairness, teaching me to value my own position. Finally, negotiation is a skill, not a conflict. Even if you are not in the business of negotiating, you should learn to build that skill. So if you're a renter in the UK or an immigrant in any part of the world navigating these waters, do not let your niceness cost you financial ruins. Do not let it drain your bank account. Subscribe for more stories on how I'm navigating life and career across borders. Have you ever had to negotiate with landlords? Let me know in the comments.